And we are back. Our next guest, actually, I should start by saying this hour, of course, is brought to you by Africa Muslims Agency. And our next guest is the Africa Muslims Agency Events and Logistics Coordinator, Riyadh Davids, who is joining us now. Um, if I can just get Riyadh. Can you hear me? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It's nice to have you on again and to be in conversation with you again, Riyadh. How are you doing
It's
today?
nice to be back with you too, Brother Abdullah. It's always nice to be chatting to you.
Thank you so much
Jazakallah
for
for the
joining us.
opportunity once again.
Jazakallah khair. So, Riyadh, what are we getting #fired up about today?
Brother Abdullah, something that I reflected on recently in Masjid the other evening when the Sheikh spoke about focus and, focus not just for the Hufaz leading the Taraweeh, but, as well as the Imam standing behind him and guiding him and so on. But I want to talk about mindfulness and being present. And, it comes to, the concept of muraqabah in today's world, so to speak. Particularly, today we are reminded to be mindful in salah, to be present, to be focused. We are told to journal our thoughts and so on for our inner well-being and so on. We are also being reminded in Ramadan to be mindful of our abstinence for food and why we're doing it, our thoughts, our speech, etc. And we've also been told, meditation is good for the self and so on. So the concept of mindfulness and being present is all about the self, yourself and your inner well-being and so on. But what about being mindful of what's happening around you? What about being mindful about the people, being mindful of the indigent people that are struggling, that are living a life of hardship? What about being mindful of the ability, your ability? It doesn't matter to what extent, but being mindful of your ability to be able to make a difference in the world today. Through this, Allah brings His mercy on you. But it brings me to an incident last year. I had the privilege of being in Afghanistan just before Ramadan last year, and we were visiting villages in Afghanistan, in the mountains of Afghanistan, and we met an orphan family, and an orphan family of two girls, and we spoke obviously through an interpreter. We spoke to one of the girls, and we asked her, what are you looking forward to? What's your experience? It's a couple of days, it's literally a week or two, before Ramadan, and we asked her what she was looking forward to, and she says, I wake up every day with tears in her eyes. She was telling us this. She wakes up every morning, and to her, it feels like Qiyamah. Of the world, because her struggles, their family struggles, is so hard. They live in a room, no heat, there's snow all around them, no food, and really a hard life. Women in Afghanistan obviously have difficulty being able to go out into the world and work and earn a living. But what really brought me to tears was her state of mindfulness and saying then that this is what Allah decreed for us. I'm accepting of my situation, but it's hard. Now you can imagine being in a situation like that and being mindful of the fact that this is from her creator. This is what the creator wanted for her. And she's acceptant of it despite the hardness, the difficulties that they were going through of literally not eating for days on end, yet going into Ramadan with hardly any food. What is it? And again, this brings me back to the concept of mindfulness. Yes, it's great being mindful of our inner self, of our inner well-being and being present in every moment. But we also need to be present in the world in as much as what's happening around the world today. People, the indigent are suffering, for whatever reason it is. And this is perhaps Allah's will for them. But this is really a lesson for us. This is what Allah wants us, or I should say, it's a test for us. This is how Allah is testing us, that have the ability, that have, the means. What is it that we are going to do to assist them in whatever small way that we can? So this is my reflection today. Being mindful, being present doesn't just mean being mindful and present of yourself and what happens just in your little surroundings. You need to think outside, look at your surrounding outside of your home. You need to look at your family, not just your family in your home, but you need to look at family outside of your home that might be going through some difficulty. And what is it that you can do to help them? What is it that you can do to make a difference in those that are not as blessed or as fortunate as you and I are in our lives? Alhamdulillah. So this is my reflection for today, Brother Abdullah.
Thank you, Riyadh. That's a beautiful reflection, and I think it follows on really well from the sort of conversation that I was having with the listeners with based on the poem that I just presented about cholera in Egypt, where we should always be sensitive to the fact that that these things still happen. And I mean, given how much we hear about them, sometimes we get like fatigued by the amount of news that we receive of people suffering in different places, and we feel that our hearts cannot handle it. Not to kind of say that we're the primary victims, but there is an impact. And so I'm really grateful for that reflection. And just kind of before we wrap up this segment, I mean, what do you recommend people do in order to kind of remain sensitized and to continue to have like a like the ability to kind of like remain sensitive to these things and to not let their hearts go hard?
Well, social media is such a big tool these days, and people follow, all the stories that's happening in the world. And we talk about Gaza, we talk about, uh, Sudan, and, Somalia, and Malawi, all of these other countries that are also struggling. And what can people really do? And I know people get tired of watching it, and, they kind of just close their phones and so on. It's a constant reminder. What you have to do is just look at yourself and say, I am blessed. I have the ability to make a difference. It doesn't matter in to what extent, whether it is just contributing a 10 rand, whatever I have in my pocket, and reach out to any organization around you. It's not just Africa Muslims Agency that's making a difference in the world, but look around you and be conscious of others that have a bigger challenge that you have. Quite often we say, what, I have this problem, I have this problem, I have this challenge, but there's always somebody that has a greater challenge that you have, and it's and by just being conscious and trying to make a difference, Allah will bring relief to you in your struggles. And this is the reflection, just be conscious that by you helping somebody else, Allah will help you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Riyadh Davids, Africa Muslims Agency Events and Logistics Coordinator. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Jazakallah. Shukran for the opportunity once again, Brother Abdullah.
Absolutely, and shukran to you. And of course, shukran to the Africa Muslims Agency, whom this hour is brought to us by. Please stand by, everyone, for a short break. We have a very interesting topic coming up after it, which is the situation in Jerusalem at the moment with a special guest. So we will see you in a few minutes.